As I got on the elevator, the man getting off whispered something strange to me. "Don't get off until you hit the 9th floor. No exceptions." "But my interview is on 5, I replied. "I'll only say this only one more time. Don't get off until you hit 9th. No other floor is safe." It's crazy, but something about the way he said it penetrated my skull. He was serious. And he looked nervous, like he had to fight every instinct in his body to say that to me. The doors closed, while I thought to myself, who the fuck says anything like that? As I went to hit the button for the 5th floor, some anxiety came over me. I shook it off and pressed it. The guy was probably just off his rockers. The elevator went up. I scanned my surroundings. A TV bolted to the top corner of the elevator, playing the Weather Channel, a mirror for the back wall of the elevator, and some cozy lounge-style music playing. Pretty standard stuff. Now arriving at the 5th floor. Weird. Not sure if I'd ever been in an elevator that announced each floor it was arriving at. I was sure that if I worked in this building, this would get pretty old quickly. Ding. The doors opened on 5. In front of me was a reception area with a woman seated at the front desk. She stood up from her seat. "Mr. Davis, you're early." The gentleman's warning from earlier played in my head. "We'll be ready for your interview in a few moments. In the meantime, please feel free to take a seat." Thank you," I responded. "I'm, early. Maybe I can come back in a few minutes." "Nonsense. We'll see if we can speed things up. He's been very excited to meet you." The elevator doors started closing. I held them open. I wasn't sure what to do here, but everything seemed fine enough. Granted, the receptionist did seem a bit eager, but beyond that, from my vantage point, I scanned the office space behind the front desk area. All looked normal cubicles, folks clicking away at their computer, a kitchen area. Pretty unremarkable. That is, except for the portrait off at the far end of the office floor. It was very large. I couldn't tell what the picture was of, but I did see a group of employees staring at it, almost admiring it. "Your wife's name is Meredith, right?" I froze as the receptionist's question shot a dart right through me. I didn't remember the job application form ever asking for my wife's name. "You two are thinking of having children, right? If it's a boy, you want to name him Sam." "What? That? Fuck." Forget that she was right on the money. This was something I'd never spoken about before to anyone, including my wife. Before I could answer, the office workers surrounding the large portrait started singing the happy birthday song loudly, in complete and perfect unison. Someone brought out a birthday cake and presented it to the portrait. A portrait that, after a bit of squinting, I realized was a very large version of my high school yearbook photo. I backed into the elevator and pressed the closed door button. I panicked as it took its sweet time to register. Press, press, press. Come the fuck on. After what felt like an eternity, the doors started closing. As they closed, I heard the receptionist, "I'm so curious to know what your insides taste like, Michael." Fuck. Me. 9th floor. I needed to go to the 9th floor. I found the 9th floor button and pressed it. It felt like it didn't register my push, so I pressed the button again. And again. Come on, come on, come on. 9th fucking floor. I tried again and again, but nothing was happening. Fuck it. I'll go back to the ground floor, I thought to myself. Back to the start. As I went to press the G button, I realized it was missing. Just that one singular button gone. Fuck. I was getting claustrophobic. I took in deep breaths to prevent myself from having a full-blown episode. The elevator started moving up again. A panel above the elevator doors lit up with the following number, 11. Someone was calling the elevator. I started talking to myself to self-soothe. It's okay. Someone will call the 9th floor soon. That's where I'll get off. As the elevator approached its new destination, I noticed that the background lounge music in the elevator had changed. It was now an instrumental arrangement of Happy Birthday. Not sure why this thing thought it was my birthday. I glanced at the weather report on the TV. At least it was going to be sunny all week. Silver linings. Now arriving at the 11th floor. Ding. The doors opened. I hung around the inside corner of the elevator beside the buttons. No need to have another nightmarish experience. Right. An old woman stepped onto the elevator. Great. I'm sure this will be easy to explain to her. She smiled at me as the doors closed. With a lump in my throat, I asked, "What floor?" "Ground floor, please." I'm sorry, ma'am, but that button is missing. Maybe we could wait until someone calls us to the 9th floor. 9th? No, I think I'll just go to the 2nd floor instead. Then she went to press the button. Ma'am, I don't think it'd be safe to. I have plenty of friends on the 2nd floor. It'll be okay. And she pressed it. I didn't feel comfortable cornering an elderly stranger in a seemingly haunted elevator, but I tried again to convince her. I know this sounds weird, but I have it under good authority that the 2nd floor probably isn't safe. I'd strongly recommend not getting off until we reach 9th. She smiled. Dear, it'll be all right. You know, I like to take all opportunities that are given to me. It's a shame that you turned your opportunity down. I know the folks on 5 are very disappointed. I backed up into the corner of the elevator. I saw the reflection of the old lady in the elevator's back mirror. She looked ghastly, otherworldly. Now arriving at the 2nd floor, the doors open. She smiled at me again, and then exited. I poked my head around the corner to look at the 2nd floor. It was damp. It looked old, more like a cave than an office. I heard a low rumble. A man dressed in a fancy suit approached the elevator doors and held them open before they could close. You getting off here too, champ? I heard that 5 wanted you. I think we can give you a better offer. I'm good. You sure, bud? The salary is $800,000 every hour. I'm good. I'm kidding, bud. The salary is we remove your eyes so you don't have to see him. The floor went pitch black. The low rumble got much louder and started reverberating in my ears. Suddenly, the businessman grabbed me by the collar and tried to pull me out of the elevator. I clung onto the ends of it. Fuck. I started kicking and headbutting him. I was able to make him let go of me momentarily as I desperately pressed on the closed doors button. Miraculously, the elevator responded much quicker this time, and they closed immediately. I tried the 9th floor button again. Didn't work. I pressed 8 instead. Anything to get away from this hellhole of a floor. I heard a loud banging on the door as the elevator started taking off, like an aggressive knock. Bang, 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 as I saw the floor numbers rising 3, 4, 5. The banging continued, just as loud. What the fuck? 6th floor, 7th floor. The banging on the door didn't subside. Now arriving at the 8th floor, I pressed the button for the 23rd floor. Just as we arrived on 8, I mashed the closed doors button just as the elevator doors were about to open. The banging continued as the elevator doors started denting. The elevator continued going up. 9, 10, 11. The banging softened. 14, 15, and softened. 19, 20, 21, and disappeared. Now arriving at the 23rd floor, it was gone. Thank fucking God. I exhaled. It felt like I'd narrowly avoided disaster. The doors opened. I scanned the new floor, and I realized I was back on the ground floor. That's what it looked like. Anyways, did I escape? Was I finally free? A man stood not too far from the door. He looked familiar, but I couldn't exactly place him. Hey man, he spoke. Was this the guy who got off the elevator just as I got on? Hey, it's over, man. You got out, he told me. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but I had to fight it. But you said the 9th floor was the only safe one. Right. That was a trick. You followed your gut and you were right. 23rd floor, the real safe floor. You can step out now, man. I didn't leave. There's someone here who really wants to see you. I couldn't move. He wants to give you a job. He thinks you're gonna be great. Why the fuck couldn't I move? He's in the other room. I'm gonna fetch him. Okay. All you have to do is look at him. It'll feel a bit weird at first, but then it'll all be okay. It's a permanent position. Great benefits. It is fully on-site, but no better birthday present than a new job, right? I lowered my gaze to the floor. I forced myself to mutter the following words. It's not my fucking birthday. As he left to fetch, whoever he was meaning to fetch, he gave me the following response. Relax, man. No cursing on the job. We're a family here. It felt like I could only move a centimeter at a time. A true snail's pace. I inched my finger closer and closer to the closed door button. I heard footsteps. He was coming back. With every fiber of my being, I pushed through. I hit the button. The doors closed, and I collapsed to the floor. free from whatever weird force was stopping me from moving. "I'll let you two talk more on the elevator," I heard him say from outside the doors. "What?" Instinctively, I looked around. To my surprise, there was nothing. The elevator was the same as it had always been. A lengthy exhale. I was done with all of this. At this point, I would have taken death over continuing this bullshit any longer. As I pondered my next move in this hopeless situation, I noticed something strange. The button to the 9th floor was lit up, an ominous, crimson-red color. Before I could do anything else, my phone started ringing. I checked the call. It was my wife. I answered. "Babe, fuck. I don't know why I didn't even think to call you. I'm trapped in an elevator and fucked up shit is happening and maybe I should call the cops. Fuck I. Hon, don't go to the 9th floor." "What? Wait, how do you even?" "It's a trick, honey. You have to trust me. The man from before was lying to you. It's not safe. None of this has been safe. How do you even know everything that's happening? You just need to trust me, huh?" I paused. "So what do you want me to do then?" A demon on the other side of the phone answered this time. "Go to your interview." I hung up the call and in a panic, I mashed on the 9th floor button. The elevator started rising again. Even with me hanging up the call, the muffled sound of the demonic voice coming from my phone continued. "Go to your interview. Go to your interview. Go to your interview." I pulled out my phone and flung it to the ground as hard as I could. I stomped on it angrily. The warped sound of GOTOYOURINTERVIEW slowly started dying out. But suddenly, the elevator started shaking. It was continuing to go up. But it was faster than usual. Really fucking fast all of a sudden. Almost like the 9th floor was now way below me. It felt like an amusement park ride with no brakes on it. Loose. Dangerous. Flinging up at an insane speed, almost as if it was falling upwards. But I pressed 9. I screamed to myself, exasperated. It didn't matter. Now arriving at the 41st floor. God, what the fuck? I was brought to my knees by the speed of the elevator traveling faster and faster. Now arriving at the 90th floor. The buttons didn't even go past 52. Now arriving at the 141st floor. Fuck. Now arriving at the 230th floor. Now arriving at the 401st floor. I felt like I was inside a bullet. The pleasant voice of the elevator lady was getting deeper and deeper as we rose. Now arriving at the 840th floor. The voice started croaking. A demonic sound this time. Now arriving at somewhere nice. A sudden halt. The elevator stopped. The doors didn't open, though. The panel above the elevator doors had no indication on what floor we were on. As I sat, I heard what could be best described as the sounds of hell coming from outside the elevator. Low grunts of pain. Crackling. A dark hymn. Was this where I was supposed to get off? Before I could ponder the question further, I heard a soft tapping on the elevator. A voice from outside. "Do you want to trade?" said the voice. I decided to bite, for reasons I still don't fully understand. "What do you mean? What if you stay on this floor forever, and I get to go home? I think I'm good, but I really want to go home." It almost sounded like the voice of a kid. Fucking hell. Sorry, kid. I mustered back. "It's okay." An awkward silence between us. "He told me that he wants to wish you a happy birthday," said the kid. I think he's got it wrong. Today isn't my birthday." "It is," he responded. "It's the first day of your new life. Your birthday. He wants you to look at the TV." "What?" I looked at the TV in the top corner of the elevator, hoping to see the one constant I'd had during this whole cursed trip, the weather. Instead, the TV was now showcasing what looked to be CCTV footage, grainy footage from a camera, of the exact elevator I was in. A live feed of this exact moment. Except, the TV showed me lying down, looking up with a wide smile on my face, and something above me on the ceiling, looking straight down at me. Him. The lights in the elevator went off. The elevator plummeted downwards, as I closed my eyes and screamed for dear fucking life. I waited for the impact, for what I knew was my demise. Here it comes. Here it fucking comes. I'm not ready. I'm not ready at all. Now arriving at the 9th floor. Ding. The doors open. Wait. What? 9th floor. I peeked out from the elevator. Another reception desk. Wait, is this really the... I was interrupted by a voice from the outside. You coming out or what, you fucking moron? I got to my feet. The feeling of distrust, anxiety, whatever you'd call it, my fear, intuition, it was gone. I felt light. Fuck it. I stepped onto the floor and approached the counter. The receptionist handed me what looked like a button for the elevator. For the ground floor, she said. Single use only. I took it and headed towards the elevator. Then I turned back to face her. Can I maybe take the stairs? She shook her head. If you didn't like the elevator, then you're really not going to like the stairs. Fair enough. I got into the elevator. I said a silent prayer to myself as I put the button where it belonged. It fit without any issue. I pressed it, and the elevator went down. It was a smooth ride. Now arriving at the ground floor. Ding! As I got ready to exit, I realized that the ground floor button was missing once again. Strange. I didn't linger on it. I marched out, ready to get the fuck out of this building. I noticed a woman running onto the elevator. I tried to stop her, but something in my body wouldn't let me. The most I could muster was putting my hand on the door to relay a message to her before the doors closed. Don't get off until you reach the 9th floor, no matter what. The woman just smiled at me. Happy birthday, Michael. How many people are in the room? That was the first thing Stella asked me as she settled in at the table. I looked around the diner. It was 2 a.m. The place was mostly empty. What do you mean? How many people are in here right now? Besides us, she said. Maybe 5, 6, I replied. Stella's lips trembled. How many people are in the room exactly? She was terrified. I counted. The waiter, the old man staring into a bowl of soup by the door, the 2 young women coming down from a night of partying over pancakes, the guy in a ball cap trying to cut through his overcooked steak, and the middle-aged woman in a pea-green overcoat. 6, I said. 6 people. Stella instantly relaxed. Thank you. Stella and I hadn't seen each other in 5 months. I was in school out of state and was home for the summer. Stella had gotten into a good university, but her sister Anne had died in a car wreck 2 weeks before she went off to school. The death hit her hard. Real hard. I wasn't sure why she'd called me. I doubted it was to catch up, and it certainly wasn't to party. Stella knew I abstained from everything. For me, that decision was the end result of being raised by verbally abusive alcoholics and knowing the genetic odd. Stella looked rough. Not strung out, but existentially exhausted. There were scars on her hands, bruises modeling her tattooed forearms, and some unusual scarification marks on her neck. 2 of them. They looked like clumsy Z's, but reversed as if done in a mirror. Stella's friend Corey had dropped her off at the diner about 30 minutes before I'd gotten there. I didn't know him well, but what I did know, I didn't like. So, how are you holding up? I asked. Stella didn't answer. The waiter appeared, and Stella looked him over cautiously before she ordered a black coffee and a slice of blueberry pie. I got a hot tea and a side of fries, though I wasn't exactly hungry. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes before Stella, staring down at her hands, asked, "What's the worst thing you ever did?" I shrugged, said, lied to people, lied to get out of things, mostly to my friends in high school. But I've changed. I don't do that anymore. Oh, I also shoplifted once, a pair of socks. Stella laughed. That's when the waiter reappeared with our drinks and food. Stella jumped, her eyes wide, face flushed. The other people in the diner turned and looked but did nothing. You all right? The waiter asked, weirded out. Taking a deep breath, Stella slowly sat back down. Yeah, sorry, she said. It's been a long night. The waiter shook his head as he put the stuff down. When he left, Stella sipped her coffee and then she looked over the mug at me, her eyes tearing. I did the worst thing you can do. I tried to kill someone. I wasn't sure I heard her correctly. What? Stella nodded, eyes locked on mine. A jogger Corey and me hit him with the car. Oh my God. When did this? On my way here. The blood drained from my face. We should call the cops. He could still be there. Hurt and... Don't bother, she interrupted. We went back and checked on him. There was no jogger. What's that fucking mean? I was starting to lose it. Please don't start playing games with me, I said. I don't want to hear this sort of bullshit. Isn't bullshit, Stella replied. Ask Corey. I didn't want to call Corey. Stella said, I didn't actually see the jogger, Corey did. That's how I knew. So, I asked him exactly where the man was, and I grabbed the wheel, and Corey screamed at me as I made the car slam into the guy. Sent him flying. Like it mattered, Corey hit the brakes hard. He was losing it, talking about going to prison and his life being over. But I told him not to worry. That pissed him off something bad. When he got out of the car to go help the jogger, he just froze up, because there was no one there. Road was empty. Me, I expected that. She took another sip of coffee and poked at the slice of pie with her fork, stabbing the crust and examining the blue-tinged tines in the dull fluorescent light. See, it can look just like a person. Could be any age, dressed any sort of way. It talks like a person. Eats, drinks, does all the regular sorts of things people do. Doesn't exactly sound threatening, I know, but wait for the twist. I can't see it. This thing pretending to be a person, it's invisible to me, but you and everyone else. You can see it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I didn't. Stella finally looked up at me. 2 weeks ago, we were tripping. Me and Corey and this woman named Genevieve. She was the guide. This was at Corey's house. On the deck. We dropped N-bomb. That synthetic MDMA stuff. We'd been using hallucinogens and trying to explore an inner mental space. Tripping together. Sharing the same imagery. It's crazy how, if you're in sync, like emotionally and mentally, you can basically travel together. I know how it sounds. I do. But it was really working for us. We were, I guess you'd describe it something like astral traveling. We'd built this architecture, this city, in our minds and then explored it. Mostly it was made of shifting, beautiful buildings, structures that rose over us like mountain ranges. And, in this mental city, that's where we came across it. The diner door chimed as the two young women having pancakes left. Stella watched them go, then turned back to me. I didn't need an explanation. There are 4 people in here now, I said. She nodded, sipped more coffee, and then continued. Well, this night, we traveled deeper into the city than we'd ever been before. We ended up in a tower, had a spiral staircase. We all went up to the top floor and found a locked door. You're all seeing the same thing. I interrupted, not buying the experience. Yes, Stella's demeanor had intensified. The twitchiness melted away. We all saw it. Okay, so, we get to this door. It's a metal door, dented, but from the inside, bulging out. Like someone was kicking the door, trying to smash it down. Genevieve, she got scared, told us to not open that door, to stay far away from it. She said a Voyager was on the other side. Voyager. That's what Genevieve called it. Being a guide, she knew the sort of constructions we were exploring. She'd seen doors like this one, and she'd been warned about the Voyagers. The way she told it, they were like us, explorers in inner space, but not from our reality, from another one, a bad one. But long story short, I opened the door. Why would you do that? Stella stirred her coffee, lost in thought for a second. As she did, one of the cooks quietly came out from the kitchen and sat at the counter. He flicked through a newspaper someone had left and glanced over at me. He nodded, gave a little smile. I wondered if he'd made the fries I wasn't eating. After Corey and Genevieve drifted away, Stella continued. Still staring at her drink, I heard a voice on the other side of the door. My sister's voice. She was begging, pleading with me to let her out. I swear it was her. So, I opened that metal door, feeling the stare of the cook. I ate a few of the fries. They were cold, soggy. What happened? I asked Stella. When I opened it, something suddenly brushed past me. Something clammy, cold. It touched me, very briefly. There was pain. Stella unconsciously motioned to the Z-scars on her neck, then continued. Anyway, there wasn't a room on the other side of the door. Just a void. A deep emptiness. When the trip was over, I immediately felt a change. I felt like I was being watched. The whole rest of that night, the next day, the next week, something was following me. A shadow. A presence. And I knew, I just deep in my gut knew, that if it caught up with me, if it touched me again, I would die. She kept stabbing at her slice of pie, breaking the crust, letting the congealed blueberries slowly tumble out in a little landslide of jelly. You told me that you can't see this thing, Stella. The door to the diner opened, and 2 men in work overalls walked in, each holding a hard hat, their clothes dusty. Stella suddenly straightened in her chair. 2 men just walked into the diner, right? I nodded. Yeah, just those 2 guys. Stella settled. Why me? I asked. Why did you want to meet? To tell me this? Stella smiled. First time she'd done that all night. Because I knew you'd believe me. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly, impossibly dry. You've been a good friend, Stella blinked away, welling emotion. In high school, when things got bad. With boyfriends or assholes, you were the one I could confide in. The one that trusted me. The one that, no matter what I did, no matter how stupid it was, you were there for me. A shoulder to cry on, a hand to hold. And she reached across the table and took my hand. Squeezed it. Tight. Truth was, I'd had a crush on Stella most of high school. She was a friend, for sure. And, for a while, a good friend. I liked being that rock for her, but I'd always hoped for more. Like most friendships, it began with a one-sided attraction. Mine. And even though I hadn't seen her in half a year, those feelings remained. Dormant but there, waiting to be awakened. As Stella held my hand and smiled, I noticed. I felt her fingernail tracing something on the inside of my palm. At first slight, just a little pressure. Only, it got sharper until... Ouch. Shit. I pulled my hand away to find Stella had cut me. She'd sliced a shape with her sharp pinky nail into my skin. It was a backward letter Z, like the ones on her neck. A ribbon of blood began to well up from the center of the small cut. What the hell, Stella? She just shook her head and stood up, backing away from the table, repeating over and over, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to. Okay. I had to. Had to what? Hurt me. I was furious, confused. Everyone in the diner turned to watch her. Only the cook got up from his place at the counter and walked over, eager to lend a hand. I waved him away. It's okay. I got it under control. That was when Stella broke, her voice barely a whisper. What? I told him I got it. She went pale. Who'd you tell? The cook. I yelled. He's just trying to help you. There is no cook. No one's there. Stella began shrieking, scrambling backward. She slammed into a nearby table. Chairs fell over, silverware scattered. No, she yelled. No one's there. The cook kneeled down beside Stella, and, for a split second, bewildered as I was, I honestly thought he was going to help her up. He didn't. Instead, he leaned in close to her. She was crying and shaking, and clearly couldn't see him. The cook turned to me, nodded with a sick grin, and then opened his mouth wide to reveal jumbled, bloody gums filled with jagged teeth. He tore her throat out with a single bite, and as Stella's blood pumped out across the linoleum flooring, the cook vanished. Not a slow fade, not dissolving into mist, just there 1 second, and gone the next. Someone screamed. I think it was the woman in the pea-green overcoat. Afterward, when the cops came, a story emerged. All the other people in the diner that night, they said Stella cut her own throat with a knife. Where she got the knife from and where it went, they didn't know. They also said that the cook had tried to help her, that he attempted to close the wound and save her life. The cops couldn't find him after the EMTs got there. When I went back to the diner the next day to ask about what happened, the waiter claimed they didn't even have a cook who resembled the man I described, the man I saw. It was as if, after Stella's death, all the details of her demise began to unravel, like the universe was erasing her from existence entirely. And now, the Voyager, whatever it is, has come for me. It's been 5 days since Stella died in that diner. 5 days I've been haunted and hunted. I tracked down Corey and he led me to Genevieve. She told me what fate awaited me. According to her, Voyagers used the symbol, the backward Z's that were on Stella's neck, the one she scratched into my flesh, to track their victims down. Stella, I guess she thought she could trick the Voyager into taking me instead of her. It didn't work, and now she's doomed me. It's just a matter of time before there's an extra person, a person I can't see, sitting across from me on a bus or walking behind me on the street. Right now, I'm in my bedroom at my parents' house. I haven't left in 48 hours and they're getting worried about me. They'd heard I lost a friend, though they can't seem to recall anyone named Stella going to high school with me and so they're being compassionate and letting me stay cooped up. But they've told me I've had visitors, folks stopping by unannounced, folks who, when I crane my neck out my window to catch a glimpse of them standing on the porch, aren't there at all. Just my parents talking, gesturing into empty space. I'm going to have to leave this room eventually. That or my parents will get worried enough that they'll have me helped out, likely to the hospital. And when I get there, I'll be asking the same question Stella did. How many people are in here right now? How many exactly? My mother forced me to play hide and seek every night at 9. One night, it wasn't a game. My mother always made me play hide and seek with her. It was just her and me, and we played at 9. Each time, without failure, she told me to ignore her during the game. She told me that she would purposefully try to trick me, but, if you really wanted to trick somebody, why tell them anything? We played in the park. I thought this was normal. I knew other families didn't do this, but at the same time, I thought there was nothing wrong with us doing it. I liked the park after all. During the night, the air was so fresh, and it was silent, and the trees seemed larger than usual. She counted down from 100, giving me ample time to run away. My general competitiveness always made me run away, and as far away as I could. I'd find some space behind many trees, and I'd lie down. The park was large, but somehow my mother would always manage to walk past me at least 3 times in those 20 minutes. I'd always hear her speaking as she walked past me. "Come out, Clara. Clara, please come out. I'm sick of this stupid game, Clara. It's cold and I just want to go home." I ignored her. When we first started with the games, I'd been foolish enough to leave my hiding spot. My mother's face immediately turned into one of fury. She'd walk up and grab me tightly by the shoulder as she scolded me relentlessly. "I told you not to listen to me, didn't I?" She would drag me back to the car and ignore me until the next day, when we played. I didn't know why she did it. After I'd stopped listening to her during the 20 minutes of game time, it would no longer trick me. I knew she was lying, and it simply seemed like a waste of breath and energy to keep calling out for me. She got angry when she found me too. The park was a huge place, and if she hid somewhere I would never find her. But somehow my mother was excellent at tracking me down. It was like she sniffed me and hunted me down. Instead of getting angry at me, she got disappointed. She'd sigh loudly, and her eyes would tear up before she'd dejectedly walk to the car. That gave me the worst feeling ever, filling me with inadequacy. One time, she found me after only 2 minutes, and she broke down sobbing. I didn't get it. I felt a huge urge to win. I needed it. So I started to get creative. I hid myself in the bushes. I'd changed my clothing to be more green and black and generally more inconspicuous. I got high up in trees, so it would be difficult to see me from the ground. I learned how to stay still. Really, really still. And when I won, my mother would give me a smile. It wasn't a smile of happiness or a smile of pleasure. It was more a relieved smile, but I felt so proud when I saw it. We'd go home, and I'd have an easy time falling asleep. Then my father came. One day, when I came back from school, I saw him talking to my mother. He was almost never home. Actually, I'd seen him twice in my entire life, and my mother never really spoke about him. He was really just a stranger to me. I noticed the expression on my mother's face immediately. It was pale, white, shaking, eyes wide. I couldn't hear what he was saying, so I got closer in towards them. Of course, their conversation stopped just as I did it. Well, my father stopped speaking. The expression on my mother stayed the same. He turned to me and smiled in a wolfish way. It made me recoil away with disgust. He sneered. He fucking sneered. I thought it was normal. That was how my classmates acted after all. Later that same day, when my father was off in the toilet, my mother got close to me and whispered, "Don't come out. Not even after 20 minutes. My father got really energetic right before bedtime. I thought we'd skip the whole hide and seek thing. My mom looked really sick, and looking at the clock, she said, "Let's take a trip to the park." I immediately noticed that she didn't mention hide and seek. "Why?" my father asked. "Why not? Get some fresh air, maybe." "Fine," he said. "I like 'em active anyway." What the hell did he mean by that? Mom told me to change with a certain look, and I caught what she meant immediately. Put on hiding clothes. After doing it, we got into the car and we drove to the park. My mother was silent the entire way, but my father hummed. We walked together in the park for a while, my dad mumbling about work. I don't remember much of it. Honestly, it didn't sound like any job I'd ever heard. Then, suddenly my mother pointed at a tree in the distance. I noticed that it was the same tree she'd found me hiding behind the last time she'd caught me. These trees get so old. Then, they die. It's a shame they're stuck in place, unable to get away from the virus. She was saying, get away and hide. Death is the way of all living things, Dad said. No need to fear it. I think I saw a squirrel in that tree, I said. I'm going to go check it out. I disappeared into the forest I'd grown well acquainted to. I got behind a hill before changing direction and moving away. I made sure to try to move on the spots that wouldn't leave a mark. I needed to get far away before they noticed something was up. I thought about climbing a tree and hiding there, or about diving into a couple of bushes. Trees were only effective if people didn't check. Bushes worked great, but you'd have a small, if no, view of your surroundings. I chose the bushes, jumping into them, and trying to control my breath. After a couple of minutes, I heard my parents walking in the distance. Clara, Dad shouted, where are you, sweetheart? If you're hurt, please say something, and we'll help. Clara, Mother said. Clara, can you hear me, darling? My heart beat faster. I knew for a fact that I shouldn't leave the bushes. That was the absolute worst thing that could happen. I kept me breathing under check as they moved further and further away from me. Then, they came back. Please, Clara. Your dad isn't dangerous. Please come out, Clara. Please. I need to get going soon. Please come out. Clara, Mom said. Where are you? Stop this silly nonsense, Dad said. Their voices eventually faded out. I stayed there, in the same position, for nearly a whole hour. My body started to ache, and I could feel insects crawling around on the back of my leg. I really wanted to leave this position. I heard a stick snap in the distance. It came from behind me. I hadn't heard their voices at all. Had they just stopped speaking? That terrified me, and I felt I needed to turn around and get a view, but I knew that would give me away. Clara, stop with this silly nonsense. Come out. I was entirely silent. Clara, please come out. Her voice was turning more and more desperate, more guttural. Fortunately, it was what seemed to be around 70 meters away from me. But she was approaching. Clara, Mom said, I'm getting tired. I just want to go home, eat, and sleep. I stayed silent as the voice grew louder. She was approaching me. I know you're in the area. It's only a moment of time before I find you. I will skin you. Haha. I'll start with your forearms, peeling off your skin with a dull knife, just like peeling back cheese. I wager there'll be lots of blood coming out, and screaming. I won't be able to focus, but that's all right. I can always switch to your other arm. She came closer. You won't like it. I certainly wouldn't, but I'm not as stupid and fucking disgusting as you are, Clara. No, I'm glad I'm not a creature of filth like you. The only good you can serve is by being in my belly, by fueling me. I'll find you. The voice was only 20 meters away. You'll regret not coming out. 10 meters. You know, I don't eat the bones. They get stuck in my throat, but I can't leave them. I'll probably take them home with me and suck on them. They have a good taste, you know. It'll be perfect. 2 meters. She giggled. Did she find me? Oh, no. I debated whether I should stay still and hope for the best or if I should look back. My fear was killing me, and it had to know, but I know looking would make noise. No, I had to stay still. I know where you are, she said. Fuck. But then, she began walking away from my spot. I'll suck on your eyeballs before swallowing them. They're better whole, and they're always wet and squishy so they go down the throat easily. If not, there's always blood. Oh, a mouthful of warm blood. Is there a better feeling? I stayed still for that entire night, even after I was certain that they'd gone away. It was only when the sun was above me, and I could hear other children, that I stood up. One child jumped back and shrieked. He must have gotten properly terrified. Then, I made my way back home. Dad wasn't there, but Mom was. She hugged me.